Good morning, and it's welcome to District 32 Business Radio Show, and we're here with the brilliant Vici Mountain from Mountain Solicitors. So welcome, Vicky.
Thank you, Dean. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Brilliant stuff. Looking forward to picking your brain a wee bit over the next 30 minutes or so. But I suppose maybe just to kick off, if you want to give us maybe a brief insight into the business and what you guys actually do.
Sure. It's sometimes hard to explain what we do because we do such a wide variety. But you could possibly just split the description into three core areas. So first of all, we have a very big estate planning and deceased estate department. So we work with simple wills right through to very complex wills. That's one of my passions, actually. I love doing the complex wills. And then we also deal with simple probate right through to complex probate, disputed, contested wills, and the very prominent, it's become very popular, the family provision claims against estates. So that's our estates and deceased estates section. Then we have a dispute resolution or litigation department, and that deals with any disputes of any kind except for family. We don't do any family or criminal law. So it could range from simple debt collection. It could be disputes over shareholder matters or director disputes, oppression of minority shareholders, building disputes, or professional negligence, medical negligence claims. And then the third component is commercial transactions, which is the traditional commercial law, drafting or reviewing of documents. And that's the area where we have evolved a lot in the last few years. We've now put documents online. So we hope to get a lot of accountants on board using our document templates. They have directions where you can actually complete the documents online.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, just appreciate that interview. And I always find it fascinating when you meet business owners who are in business a number of years, what their background is prior to maybe setting up the business. So I know we've touched on you've a very interesting background as well. Do you want to share a bit of what you were doing pre building Mountain Lawyers? Yeah,
it's... I came to law in a very unusual way. So I left school at 15 back in an era where girls were not encouraged to go on in education. They were just expected to get a job and get married. I went to secretarial college, which has been a great boost because I learned to touch type, which has been fantastic in law. So after doing secretarial college, I was what was referred to in those days as a Girl Friday. Okay, probably not appropriate for these days, but probably the term these days would be an office administrator. Okay. And then I was a secretary to a manager of a credit union where we took shorthand notes right into the wee hours of the morning. Well. And then with my ex-husband, we set up a building and construction business, which for 13 years. Okay.
So that was the first foray into the business world? That was
the first foray into the business world. Yeah. And in that world, I actually was out on the trades. Okay, pretty good. Had my photo on the front page of the West Australian at one time for working on the scaffolding. But obviously doing more of the administration and bookwork. So when all of that disappeared, just due to separation, I just thought, I've got no qualifications. What do I do? So I went back to Canning College to do my TEE. Thought I would probably be an accountant, but loved studying. It was just such a great experience to go back as a mature age student, and happened to get good enough scores to do law. So then I was in a quandary because I thought, I don't know whether I'd ever be a lawyer. But so I did the 2 degrees, the accounting and the law degree.
Okay, very good.
And after a couple of years, learnt that accounting wasn't for me, but absolutely passionate about the law. I just found my foray there. It was just, I just loved it. So then I was in you do your 2 years and your article clerks and all of that sort of thing. And then I set up my own business.
And I suppose what was the ultimate kind of, I suppose, motivational factors that kind of kickstarted you to launch the legal business then? Well,
again, it was more of falling into it than an actual desire to do it. After 2 years with the medium-sized law firm in Perth, I had an opportunity to work with the Department of Commerce. It was a specialised role where they needed somebody that specialised in corporations and insolvency. It was during the time of the big finance scandal. I don't know whether you were here then or remember.
Probably just before my time.
Yeah. But in taking up that secondment, I still was working on some very high-profile matters for a particular client. And with the agreement of the Department of Commerce and my previous employer, they agreed that I could continue working to finish off those litigation matters for that particular client because I was so entrenched in it. And so I had to set up a business to be able to just finish those matters off. And then, of course, as it transpired, I just loved the fact that I could do that and provide affordable legal services for clients that were in need that, this particular client would not have been able to afford to go forward with the legal fees that he was incurring on the matters. So it was just so...
So was that when the legal firm was born at that stage?
So that's when Mountains was born, and Mountains then stayed as just me as a sole practitioner for 10 years before I took the leap to actually grow and form Mountains Lawyers. Okay.
So how long ago now is Mountain Lawyers formed?
So Mountains Lawyers is still the same company, just rebranded and changed the name, and that's about 10 years ago.
10 years
now.
ago. Okay.
So the business itself has been running for 21 years. But Mountains Lawyers in its current form with employees and everything else has been 10 years.
10 years. Yeah. Stuff. Okay. And I suppose, you're 20 years in business, say, on the legal side, and obviously you've got the 10 years or plus on the construction. So that's a lot of time being in business. So
yes, you start adding it up, you really do get to my age, don't you?
We'll keep that a secret. But what would you say is your greatest learning in business between even the construction and what you've done so far on the legal side?
I think my greatest learning was how to pace myself in business. So because I am passionate about what I do, I'm passionate about the law and passionate about helping my clients, I can be a workaholic. Yeah. So I think the greatest thing, I've suffered 2 burnouts in my career. So I think the greatest thing that I've had to learn is how to pace myself, a better work-life balance, because you need to run the long run, not the short marathons.
I think it's an interesting thing you bring up around the burnout, because it's been a topic I've come across online and in conversations. Is there signs that come up for you now where you go, okay, I need to ease off, or do you have boundaries in place to obviously ensure that you don't hit that burnout stage? Yeah,
there are signs. When I had my major burnout, I actually couldn't sign my name. I just could not even remember how to sign my name. So the signs that I get now are things like those little things of, I can't remember my password, or I'm sitting in front of this computer and I can't really concentrate on what I'm doing,
okay.
then I recognise that, okay, you need to take a break.
Okay. Yeah. Do you just take time off or?
In those circumstances, I usually make sure I have the weekend off instead of working.
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, well, appreciate you sharing that as well.
Yeah.
I suppose, it's interesting. You were working kind of, as you said, as a sole practitioner for 10 years, and you decided obviously to scale. So at that stage, what would your understanding of, say, branding and marketing have been at that stage, or did you see it as important, or were you aware of it?
That's a really good question. Yeah. I was totally unaware of branding and marketing while I was a sole practitioner, because it was just word of mouth. All my work came from word of mouth. When I decided to take the leap of faith and actually grow the business, then obviously I became aware of branding. And it was at that point that the first thing that I did was started joining some networking groups.
Okay.
And of course, District32 was a big part of that journey as well. I
appreciate that.
But I think branding is something that you have to keep your eye on all the time. Networking certainly is something that you have to keep doing. So we have times when we are just so flat out busy. It's difficult to find the time to do the networking, but you can't let it drop. It's one of those things that you've got to keep moving on with, because you've got to look to the future. You can't just say, I've got enough work at the moment, I'm just going to pull back and stop. So I think being in Rockingham has really been wonderful for our business, because it's such a great community down here. And once you become respected and in your field of expertise, the community really gets behind you. So joining the chamber was another great move for Mountains lawyers.
I think we first crossed paths would have been early District32, so it's 6 years ago, and it was interesting. Even when you got involved with us, people were aware of you, not just locally, but even say across parts. So that's obviously a great reflection on the branding you'd done over the previous years, and obviously the marketing as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Mountains Lawyers was born in the CBD. I had a business on St George's Terrace when I was a sole practitioner. So I still do have contacts in the CBD area, and throughout the other areas as well.
You probably touched on what I'm going to ask you. So I suppose for me, an interesting conversation with business owners over the years has been around how to do business development and sales within the business. So probably what I found is it's a real challenge for most. Generally, what you'd find with business owners, they're brilliant mechanics of what they do, whether it's legal or websites, etc. Do you enjoy that aspect of the business, the business developments? Is that something you
yes and no to that. I love the entrepreneurship. I love developing the business. I love the networking. I'm a very big picture kind of thinker. I hate sales.
Fair enough.
In the traditional sense, hate sales. But also, you can't be a big picture thinker and forget about the details. And I've been very fortunate to have a brilliant practice manager by my side who looks after the devil in the detail.
Fair enough. And is it something like, say, with the business, is it something that you kind of review maybe on a monthly basis around what you're actually doing in terms of business development and sales, or is that something you tend to review each month? And
we do. In fact, we've just put KPIs in place for all of our staff, where the lawyers now must be networking. They can choose their networking form, so and they must be active in that. And there's certain measures that we put in place of making sure that They are active. They can't expect to sit on their laurels and have work put in front of them without sharing the responsibility of bringing that work in the door. So yes, we do, and the KPIs are monitored, I think, monthly. So I think probably you touched on earlier on, like a lot of your business has been through word of mouth and referrals, introductions. So obviously it makes sense to have the team being proactive, obviously to facilitate. Obviously it's good for the branding as well, and as a point of contact. So it makes sense. Yeah, not only that, but, I am getting older. I'm also looking at an exit strategy while I'm doing this as well. So, I've been very proactive in building up the young lawyers. It's probably my greatest achievement, actually, is mentoring the young lawyers and seeing them admitted as lawyers. That gives me such a boost. And then I want to see those young lawyers come up and eventually take over the business. And if they're going to take over the business, they have to know how to network and bring the work in as well as do the work.
That's brilliant. Obviously, they're getting that mentoring, not just on the legal side, but in the overall business. So that's brilliant. So that's probably my greatest love now, is the mentoring. Okay, brilliant. And I suppose we're in strange times. Obviously, we've been really lucky here in WA, obviously with the challenge of COVID, but all things being equal, say taking the next 12 months, what do you see as the biggest challenge in business for you guys?
I think the biggest challenge for us is keeping abreast of all of the technology and the changes. We spent a whole year last year with the business incentives we got through the government. We actually reinvested that into upgrading our website and also improving our technology. So we're at a point now where all of our staff can work remotely. You've seen those movies where they cart those big trolleys of files into court.
Oh, yeah. Well,
we now take our laptop in and it's all on our laptop. So the keeping up with the changes in technology is still something I think that's going to evolve over the next 12 months. So despite the fact that we've spent 12 months upgrading, we've gone to the point of putting documents online. So particularly accountants, we're going to market to accountants that they can actually go in, fill out the documents. There's a spiel that directs them how to fill it out. If they get to a point where they hit a blocker, obviously, then they come in to see us. But a lot of those templates will be online that we can sell online as a product.
Does that make you guys unique in that aspect?
No, we're not the only ones doing it. There are a few other law firms doing it, but not a lot. So, and again, it's community based. We like to, when we're doing anything, we like to use local people,
providers,
providers, and hopefully that feedback comes back to us as well.
Okay, I mean, I saw my next question. You've kind of touched on a wee bit. Like you've always spent a lot of time over previous years reviewing the business, how to grow it, scale. You've mentioned exit strategy. So I suppose you're looking at scaling the business, is there systems and automation that you've embraced, say in recent times? That maybe I could give a couple of examples, maybe.
Yeah, sure. Systems and procedures was another big issue that we did probably the year before. So every year we have a specific target that we work on. So the year before was systems and procedures. And of course they cross over too with technology and systems and procedures. But law firms have to have a CRM, and we use Leap, which is a very, very expensive platform, but it gives us everything we need for the law firm. We also subscribe to LexisNexis, which is a legal research database. And off the top of my head, but we've subscribed to a few different platforms. We've also put in place a buddy system so that in every area of law, there's 2 lawyers working in that area, and they can pick up immediately if one lawyer is incapacitated in some way. So we've got the buddy system in place, and we're constantly working on manuals and procedures, so that even down to the reception, if the receptionist is sick, somebody's got a manual there, the procedures are there and all written out as to, how to take a phone call.
And say probably a quick question as an aside from that. So I suppose people who are starting in business or maybe in the early years, would you recommend they start that from day one, or is that something that you guys have done from day one?
Certainly wasn't something I did from day one as a sole practitioner. It was, but I would highly recommend that you do it from day one, because when I took my practice manager on, it was almost like having to do that Harry Potter trick of, what's in your head, transfer it over to somebody else's head. It is a very hard thing to do once you're so ingrained, so certainly if you can, but look, I do understand that when you start out a business, there's so much else to do that putting procedures in place probably isn't top of your list. But definitely worthwhile.
I mean, it's interesting, obviously, from conversations we've had in the past. There's been a lot of growth in the business, and you've touched on that as well with systems, automation. So I suppose we all have to have challenges in terms of scaling and comfort zones we have to overcome. So is there a particular comfort zone that you've faced in growing the business, and how did you push yourself to get through that comfort zone?
Yeah, there was definitely a comfort zone. I think it stemmed from my lack of confidence in myself, actually. It was all right being a sole practitioner, because if I failed, it was only me that failed, and I was only responsible for myself and no one else. My barrier was that step of taking on an employee. And this is a really funny story about how that happened, because I was operating as a sole practitioner. My current practice manager came in to see me as a client. And after talking with her, I realised that, wow, this person's so detailed and so clever. And I headhunted her, and I offered her a position, but I said, would you like some part-time work? Would you like to come to work with me? And she said, no, I can't afford to work part-time. I have to work full-time. And I thought about that for a few minutes, and I said, okay, I'll take you on full-time, and never looked back. But it took that, okay, Vicky, you can do this, get your butt in, into gear, and but it made me work harder. But by the same token, it was, shared. And that was 8 years ago. Wow. And Iris is still with me, an amazing person. And I often say she's my right and left arm sometimes. And it is amazing. It is a massive step taken on staff. It's a big commitment, and obviously you hope you've picked the right person. So obviously you have in this case. So all is good. Good. I think whether it was intuition or just luck. But it certainly was, and it was the beginning of Mountain's Lawyers really growing, and then taking on lawyers. So taking on an assistant was one thing, but the next hurdle was, can I actually take on a lawyer, experienced lawyer? Again, that sort of, you need to jump that, you need to have that leap of faith and in yourself, really, and jump that hurdle and say, yes, if I want to grow this business, this is what I need to do. Yeah.
Okay. And is there one particular trait in yourself that you would attribute your success and your growth to over the last 8 to 10 years with the business?
An attribute in myself. I've often thought over the last few years that this is my destiny. Yeah. I've often felt that I'm so lucky to be a lawyer. It's not something I ever aspired to, ever even thought about as a child. But also as a business owner, I do think that's in my genes. My parents were very hard workers, and they had a lot of setbacks in their business. And often it was a case of things went wrong because other people did the wrong thing by them. And I think psychologically somewhere that is why I love law, because I'm able to help other business people when people have taken them for a ride or done the wrong thing or even preventing that from happening. So law wasn't something I aspired to, but I think it was my destiny to have my own business and to be a lawyer.
So it's a tie in your values in terms of obviously supporting people who are obviously in trouble or need that assistance. So
absolutely, particularly underdogs. I love fighting the David and the Goliath battles. That's really love it.
Brilliant stuff. And I say at District 32, at all our local events in the last month, we've been kind of discussing your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goals. What would be the BHAG for you guys at the moment?
Yeah, somewhere travelling around in the back of my mind, and I hope Iris doesn't hear this.
We'll put this bit out.
I would like to expand the business so that it covers all areas of law. So, at the moment we have a very diverse area in the areas that we cover, but we don't cover family law and criminal law. And I have been thinking that it would be wonderful to have a generic law firm that covers all bases, and whether I do that by merging with another firm or I think that would be probably merging with another firm to do that.
And just for the benefit of Iris, do you have a time frame in mind?
No, I don't have a time frame on that one.
Okay.
Or if I did have one, I wouldn't mention it at all.
Okay. She's not choking on our coffee, so. Another thing I suppose we've covered as well in some of our training in recent time is you have to be bold in business to grow. So what would you think is the boldest move you've made since you've launched the business?
Again, I think taking on employees. Your human resources are your most important asset and resource. And had I have done it earlier in Mountain's lawyer's career path, I think I probably would have avoided at least one of the burnouts, if not two. You can't do it all yourself. I think once you get to a point where you're under so much pressure, I think learning to either accept help in one way or another, and obviously that's paid help. So either outsourcing some of your work, or I think knowing what you don't like doing and outsourcing it. Okay. Or if you're not outsourcing it, then get an employee in to do it for you.
Okay. And I should say, I know from talking with other business owners, it's always a big move taking on staff, particularly when you're doing it the first time. So I can concur with that one. I suppose the last question is, obviously there's a lot of people out there who are maybe contemplating going into business and they've good ideas and they're probably very good at what they do. So what advice would you share with anyone thinking of launching a business? Maybe 2 or 3 things that they should be aware of or be ready for?
Yeah, I think finding the right time is crucial. I do think that part of the reason for growing my business when I did was also aligned with where I was at in my family life. So when you've got children to look after, it is so hard to juggle all those balls and run a business. I take my hat off to the ladies out there that are, or men who are parenting and running a business at the same time. I would say to them, take heart, because that's not forever. It goes really quickly.
Yeah, it does.
And maybe just run your business at a lower level. Don't expect too much of yourself while you're trying to juggle all of those balls. There will be a time when you have more time and you can actually go, full-fledged into growing your business. But yeah, look, being bold and having a go, I think, is probably the biggest thing I could say. And then, of course, the networking. The networking is so important. And I think that was the big thing in growing our business, realizing, okay, once you step out of it's not just me anymore, and okay, if I'm taking on employees, then okay, you've got to then look to the future and say, well, okay, then this business is growing, I'm taking on employees, I've got to feed them. You've got to be out there networking.
Yeah, and I think probably touches well on some of the statistics we have. Is like 85% of your business is going to come from word of mouth and referrals, which fits in with a lot of the stuff you've shared earlier on as well.
Yeah, that's right. It's very hard, and I've never had to cold call.
Well, that's good. That's brilliant. That's a good thing.
And I would not be good at it. So yeah, networking, getting your reputation out there, and absolutely essential. And even when you're busy, just you've still got to keep doing it. Yeah.
Fair enough. Vicky, listen, I appreciate allowing me to pick your mind for half an hour or so, and being honest with some of your views and insights. So many thanks again. And just for people listening who are looking to link in with you or connect with you, what's the best way of connecting with yourself?
Either by email, support@MLLS, acronym for Mountains Lawyers Legal Solutions, .com.au, or by phone 95927326, or look at our website, which gives you an indication of the services we provide.
Brilliant stuff. And I'll also check out Vicky's LinkedIn and obviously the business page on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah.
Some really good content there as well. So listen, thanks again, Vicky, and we'll chat soon for sure.
Thank you very much, Dean.
Cheers.
It was my pleasure.
Bye. Bye-bye.